Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Disenthrall. I will be Patrick Smith. Today, I have with me returning guest, favorite guest, awesome person, Shepard. Welcome back to the show, Shepard. How are you?
Thanks for having me on again, Patrick.
You have done the thing again, which you are invited and allowed and welcomed to do, which is message Patrick and tell me you think I'm wrong about something, and you immediately get to come on the show for an excellent conversation. So that's what the show's going to be about today. I think he either has some questions or outright disagreements with me on a couple things, and I want to give him the opportunity to talk me through, hopefully, if I'm wrong on one of the things that I know he disagrees with me on. I honestly hope that I am wrong, and I hope he can prove me wrong. Before I get started, let me see. Do I have any announcements? Feed the Need went well. It was much smaller this year. We didn't have neither as many people helping nor as many people to help. It was strangely like the perfect size. Like we had just enough people that needed help and just enough people to help them. So it worked out. We didn't end up with way too much stuff or food or people for the number of people that we got. So it actually worked out. Thanks to those people that donated and especially those people that flew across the country to show up and help us out. That was really cool. Good to see you guys. What else? What else is going on? I had something, but I can't remember it. So if I remember it, I'll bring it up later. But yeah, that's it. How you been, Shepard?
Just wonderfully busy. Isn't life good when it's busy?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Priorities get shaken out. Like the the stuff that isn't quite as important drops off the table, and it sort of focuses your attention. It's really good. It's definitely been my life this past year and a half. We didn't do the Freedom and Bovinity Festival for in September this year because I was just so busy, primarily with work at Float there for a while. Though that's calmed down now, and we're kind of moving on to something else. That I think I've briefly announced, but we'll have more information on soon. Yeah. So that is life, man. That is life. You've had a lot of changes as well. You've got like a new studio going, right?
Yes. It's not the permanent one yet, but I've had this thing the last couple of years that I feel that I'm not enough of a manly man. And I know a little bit about search engine optimization, but I don't know how to change out an electrical outlet. And I thought, there are certain things that a man ought to know how to do, a human ought to know how to do, but especially a man. And so I've kind of been dedicating the last year or two, and I have the next couple of years, and I'm going to try to do things. So the latest project is with the help of my wife and my neighbors and friends, building a 50-foot long and 20-foot wide gambrel style shop with 800 square feet of storage up above, and just learning things that any carpenter who's been there for 2 weeks would say, you didn't know that? But I'm having to learn it all and making every mistake in the book, and I'm getting a little bit better. So this project is going to be coming to an end once I get everything moved in and a real studio set up. But yeah, it's working. I'm excited.
Awesome. I've always wanted to build something large. That's really cool. Okay, well, I'm going to let you drive. It's hot as hell in here, so forgive me for stripping. But I'm going to let you drive the conversation wherever you'd like it. I know that you had two topics. You wanted to go over some questions that you had or problems that you had with the beginning of some of the Anti-Subjectivist manifesto, and you wanted to talk about my position on rape in the case of abortion. So this is going to be a wonderfully pleasant show.
Yeah, I'm thinking let's just keep it light. Let's start with That's what I love about your philosophy show is it's like, no BS. Let's just get in there and see what we can figure out.
For the record, this is should I state my position first and then maybe you can get into it?
Yes, please. Okay. Yes, please. So what you're saying is...
Would you like to state my position? Yeah. Actually, that might be fun. Would you like to state my position? Do you think, would that be a good intellectual challenge for you? To see
that might be. That might be. Yeah.
We'll go for it.
Absolutely. I, Patrick Smith, believe that killing kids is wrong, and it includes once they're out of the womb and when they're in the womb. and it's backed up by anti-subjectivism philosophy. And I'm not even going to use the word abortion. I'm going to use the word killing humans during the fetal stage, or something to that effect. And it's just plain old wrong to do. Except there's an exception if the policy didn't come about because the female part of that was consented to the action that resulted in her pregnancy. Then she therefore, if she didn't consent, then it is okay not to, well, we're not using the word abortion. It's okay to kill the human that's in the fetal stage if we call it eviction, because we're not really killing it, we're just removing it from where it once lived. And shame on the righties and the Christians and the anti-subjectivists for not donating more to medical study to be able to have something survive 2 days out of 2 days into fertilization. So the duty is on them.
That's pretty close. I'm curious, can you define evictionism?
I just understand it from what Walter Block talked about. And the idea is that there is a human being living inside you who you did not invite to be on your property, or in this case, in your property. And all you want is for this thing to get off of your property. And you don't wish any ill upon it. You're not choosing to go out and be violent and kill it. You're just saying, you need to get out of here, and you need to get out of here tonight. And I'm not willing to wait long.
I think we're having some. I think we just lost you there. We're having some connection issues. Can you say that last bit again?
Yeah, eviction would apply not only to a baby, but also to if a family moved property and you said, hey, you guys need to get off. And they said, well, we're need to sustain ourselves yet. We're poor. We need to live on your property for a while longer. Sorry, it's my property. You need to get off. And what happens to you thereafter isn't my problem.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. So I would just mention that two things that I want to lead with. Number one is that this is like the least happy, my least favorite position that I hold. I'm held here by what I like to think is the force of reason. And so this is one of those I'm just stating my bias. My bias is in your favor on this topic for sure. Because I do see it as the killing of it. Well, the potential killing of an innocent. The second thing I'd want to say is with eviction, the difference, there is a difference between eviction and straight up murder or straight up abortion being the typically libertarian predilection for, using the minimum force necessary to resolve the property dispute or to resolve the crime or to provide the restitution needed. That's the difference between abortion. Abortion is just like, it would be the equivalent of like somebody trespassing, like an old granny haphazardly stepping on your property, and you, rather than telling her to leave, followed by, gently sort of ushering her off of your property, you would just go straight to blowing her away. Like that would be obviously a disproportionate use of force to resolve that particular situation. So I think Walter Block's evictionism, which he disagrees with me on in my narrowing it to only valid in the cases of rape, except for a conversation I had that I think he forgot. But anyway, yeah, so I see eviction in the case of rape as that matching or the least amount of force necessary to resolve the property crime in progress. Because it is a property crime. There is a trespass going on. There is someone using your property without your consent, whether or not they bear, guilt or well, they definitely don't bear guilt or culpability for the crime. Nevertheless, they are the one perpetrating the crime to no fault of their own, certainly. Nevertheless, before the rape happened, the woman would have had full 100% rights to sovereignty over her body property. And certainly after the rape, she still maintains it. If somebody had, walked up and, I don't know, there's no analogs to pregnancy. This conversation is always difficult, but You know, she had just as much right to evict somebody from her lawn as she does to evict somebody from her womb that she never acted in any way to put there. In fact, actively disconsented to having her property used in that way, even accidentally. Again, my position is that, you know, all abortion is murder. Let me just say it that way. My position is that all abortion is murder. You're killing an innocent child that came into existence through, in that state of affairs, through no fault of his own. And if in the case of rape only, the mother has the right to evict it because she didn't have any consensual, even accidental participation in creating that situation. And anything bad that happens, you know, you evict the child at 25 weeks, let's say, is a better case scenario, right? And it actually survives, but it maybe gets injured in the process. That injury is on the rapist. If you evict it younger, such that it can't survive and it ends up dying, that death, effectively that murder, falls on the rapist, the one that initiated or created that situation. So that is, am I happy about that? No. Would I love to be able to figure out a way to save that innocent kid's life? Absolutely. I don't like this position, but I think it's the only consistent one. So that's and the last thing I'll say is we did an entire video rebutting every single argument for abortion that we could compile. It was over 40 or 50 arguments for abortion. You can find that video on this channel. I think it's called Every Pro-Choice Argument Destroyed or something. But we really went in depth. It's a multi-hour stream, and we really attempted to genuinely cover every argument with all the attention that it was worth. So definitely check that one out. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what actually made me think, what made me, when I listened to that, I'm like, yeah, I agree about everything except the part that, well, theft is okay if we call it taxation, or abortion is okay if we call it eviction. And the circumstances leading up to it, I think that I look at each day as a new day. And today, and this might not be, I'll admit right off the bat that this might not be something I can substantiate philosophically, but each day is a new day. And today, Mary wakes up and inside of her is a human being. May she kill that human being because she has bad memories of how that human being came about. She was a victim. May she now kill that human being? And I would say no. When you have people living inside you, you might be, and I use this term loosely, you might be victimized by inconvenience. You can't wear the same size clothing. You need to wear larger clothing. You get sick in the mornings. You have all this 9 months of perhaps something you don't want or that isn't pleasant. And I'm sorry that you were victimized, and I'm sorry that there are residual things that you find to be painful from that victimization. But at this moment, right now, you have a human being that, based on everything we know, has no options, and their only chance of survival is for you to do what's very psychologically challenging for you. And I have the utmost compassion, but that's a tough, bad situation you're in. Just as if I get in a fight with somebody's attacking me, they're robbing me, and they cut my wrist off, or they cut my hand off. It's going to really suck to go through life not having use of one of my hands. But that doesn't give me rights to kill people who aren't the person who attacked me.
I agree. It doesn't give you the right to kill people, which is why I'm for the evictionist position and not the abortion position. Like, your job is to use the least damaging amount of force necessary to resolve the property crime that is actively in progress. It's not over and done with. It's actively continuing, and to hold that woman in that state would be slavery. It would be an active condition of slavery that was endable, preventable. And
it's a speed issue.
well, I mean, it's a continuing crime that is stoppable, that's endable. Now,
this is the person.
I feel like I have to keep like speaking to the other side because my heart isn't in this position, which is an important lesson for people. Like you should really hold your positions with your mind with your brain instead of your heart. And this is definitely one of those for me. Would I think a mother that kept a baby from a rape? Wow. That is heroic in all capital letters. I think the community should rally around that person and give that person every bit of help, support, and care and everything that they can, because that is a straight up hero. That person needs to be celebrated for being violated in such an intimate way, and then choosing to use her property in a way to preserve the life of an innocent that was caught in the middle, so to speak. Heroic, a virtue, a good thing. But I do not see a logical justification for a requirement for that.
If I am accidentally onto your property and I am at your front door, let's say it's 50 feet from your front door to the street or to being off of your property, and you come out and you say, "Get off my property," and I go, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry," and I start heading for the street, but I'm not moving fast enough for you, can you shoot me? If you have a cannon or you have a
least amount of force necessary. So if you're just really like inching away because I don't know, the reason doesn't matter, then I can maybe start pushing you or carry you or something like that, but I can't just shoot you.
If it takes me 4 minutes to get to the edge of your property because I've got a bum leg, I'm doing the best I can. Now, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter how hard I'm trying because I don't, well, at least I tried. Well, no, if I am doing everything in my power to get off of your property, whether it's taking me 30 seconds or 9 months, I'm on the way out. And I'm sorry I can't go any faster, but this is as fast as nature lets me get off of your property. And yeah, you can get the shotgun, not a regular one, but one from the movies where you shoot the person and they go flying backwards at triple speed. Maybe you could shoot me and I would go flying off the property. Instead of it taking me 10 more seconds, it would take 8 more seconds. But I'm on the way out. It's just taking a while. I'm sorry it's messing your life up that it's taken me a while to get off your property, but I got here accidentally and I'm trying to get off as best I can.
I don't think it's that simple, because the longer the baby is in the womb, the more irreparable changes are done to the body. So it's not like the baby is just slowly moseying its way out with no other side effects. They are going to physiologically permanently alter in additional ways that the mother didn't consent to their body through the course of pregnancy. I mean, you know what pregnancy does to a woman's body, and all of that would be non-consensual and preventable non-consensual damage.
Yeah, and I don't know where that would be. I mean, I think that analogy of me getting off of your property, and as I'm walking, I'm the only way to get off is walking all over your flower garden. Sorry, I'm tramping your flowers down, but it's you want me off quickly. I'm going the fastest way I can go, and you might suffer some more damages. Is it like it's not that I dropped in the parachute onto your property, but I'm trying to do my best to get out of here. I'm sorry that I'm damaging your property doing it, but can you just blast me off your property?
Again, I'm not arguing for the position of blasting anybody off the property. I'm arguing for the least amount of force to resolve it.
However, there's a time limit for the resolution. So do we consider resolving it, me getting off your property in 4 seconds or 9 months? And the least force is going to take longer for me to get off of your property.
You know, I can't make a logical argument to force the property owner to twiddle his thumbs for 9 months to resolve a property crime. Like, I mean, we're literally talking about making anybody in the world able to enslave to delete property rights with this logic. Like, I know, and I'm trying not to fight your analogies too much, but it's because it's so difficult to make one for pregnancy. But one way to analyze it the other direction would be to say, okay, you have a person coming along, and let's just say that they have babies, infants in incubators that have to be plugged in. And, once a day at a random time, they swing by your property and plug another baby incubator in on your property. And day by day, more and more of your property is effectively stolen from you. And you are not allowed to unplug any of these incubators because you might kill innocent people. And your property is just stolen, and there's nothing you can do. You're basically enslaved to keep that power on. I have yet to see a logical argument that would justify requiring that property owner to keep paying that electric bill, or to leave all those incubators plugged in, because they have a sovereign property right to that property, an inviolable property right to that property. And they had no consent or involvement, even accidental, in those incubators getting plugged in on their lawn.
And so they should not be required to, hey, we're a place to plug them in. It's going to take us another week or 9 months. Obviously, as you say, the person would be a hero if they said, hey, I completely understand that. Take your time getting the other place going. Use my power until then. That would be awesome. But if the person says, no, get them off right now, it's morally acceptable for them to make that choice, because they are not violating the non-aggression principle, which would be initiating violence or asking someone else to initiate violence against a human.
Yeah. So property rights are not up for debate or up for being stolen at a whim of some evil asshole ever. And I take a hardline stance on that because I can't see a justification to further victimize a victim. A side note for abhorring in the comments, the sentience awareness argument that you're making was dealt with in that video I referenced. You're welcome to go look at the rebuttal to that position. The video was called Every Pro-Choice Argument Destroyed or something. It's on this channel. It's in there. But that's not what Shepard's arguing. We're only arguing rape today.
So I completely agree with you, except I see that there are two lines of thinking about what is right, and they both come out, and I'm just not happy with either of their conclusions. And I don't think, if I know that me hiring Doc to do this thing is going to result in the death of a human being, do that thing. And yeah, maybe some bad stuff happened in the past. Maybe my parents reared me in such a way that I'm a slut, and I made the choices, but maybe it's not really my fault, because from a psychoanalysis, I'm just a poor victim because of my childhood. And I'm not saying that rape victims are sluts. I'm saying this would be another, how far could I take this? I don't know. I just think that if I'm a human being and somebody drops onto my property, onto my flagpole through no fault of their own, and I completely agree with the flagpole analogy that the right thing to do is to let go. But I think the wrong thing to do is to tell the person to let go of the flagpole.
Okay. Do we want to switch topics to the flagpole?
No, I'm just using. Okay. No, let's stick with where we are. It's just the same thing. If we start
crossing our analogies, we might get in trouble.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. But I see this as being the same thing. It is wrong to force someone not to evict someone or abort someone. Same in either situation, probably. But it's also wrong to kill people who live in you. If you know that the action you're going to take is going to be to kill that person, and maybe it's because medical technology hasn't developed to the point that it can be done and still keep the kid alive, I don't think it would be morally acceptable for me to kill somebody living inside me, even if I didn't choose for them to be there. I think I would need to get them off my property as safely and efficiently and quickly as possible.
Do you have an argument for that?
No. It's a feels. I
know. And my feels are married to your feels on this issue, and it's terrible. And I hate it. I freaking hate it. I don't see I don't see any logic for it, and believe me, Shepard, I'm trying to find some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe this is one of those things where the day when I was a cop, I would go to a bar fight or something, and the guy who had punched the other guy would say, "Sometimes a man's got to do what a man's got to do," and then I would say, "Well, now a cop's got to do what a cop's got to do. I got to arrest you." And so I would say, and that's what he would say, and we were both in the wrong. He had initiated violence in the first place, then initiating violence against him after he had initiated. Maybe this topic is something where I say, okay, I can't logically prove this, but just so you know, if you ever accidentally, through no fault of your own, land on my property, I'm going to give you every opportunity to safely get off of my property. And to do anything other than that makes me a bad guy.
I don't know about bad guy, but of course, like, a good person would do that. And a heroic person would do it to the point of giving birth, or at least taking it to the point where it can be, a surrogacy or whatever, which is already an option. Like, you can surrogate a fetus away very young. So there's other options out there besides taking it to term. Unfortunately, the government is so far involved in all of that stuff that it's tens of thousands of dollars to do that. I tweeted about this a while back. Like, we would already probably have adopted one, maybe two kids if the government wouldn't just climb inside of our assholes to give us to get the approval necessary to get the adoption done. I'm not going to subject my family to that kind of government intrusion. I owe it to my current kids to not do that.
Yeah. I don't have an argument for that any more than I have an argument for other things that I just what's it called? The believe in that it's just a natural state of all human beings know that it's wrong to steal or take the Lord's name in vain or whatever the person wants to say is, everybody knows can't do such and such. And maybe it's just that guttural instinct. Well, maybe it's not even instinctive. Maybe it's a learned thing over the years. I can't imagine, as I look through all of the things, the scenarios that might pop up, including the flagpole analogy, I can go, okay, I can see that, but I can't see it being acceptable to kill someone because they're headed out of your property and they're not going fast enough.
I really wish, I don't know if this would be cool or tragic. Like, if a woman in a situation anywhere near this, and maybe not even necessarily rape, but like if they contacted me and were like, hey, maybe we can do this kid thing off the books. No, because I would go to prison for that, right? Like, if anybody ever found out that I adopted a kid without permission, never mind. Shouldn't even be talking about this publicly. It just makes me honestly, genuinely, deeply sad, because I would love to have more kids, I think.
Yeah.
Failed contraception in the comments. We covered that in that video as well. All of those arguments were well rebutted in that video. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I don't have that. I don't think I have a logical argument that would defy logic. It only satisfies, I don't think it's right if you blah, blah, blah. And that isn't logic or reason. And I don't like feels, and I can't argue that feels are correct. I can feel that they are, but I can't argue rationally that they are.
And you can disassociate from people as you choose for whatever feels based reasons you want, and that's pretty persuasive too.
And I would say that if I was watching next door, bringing up, I'm sorry to keep bringing analogies, but it is tough to find an exact for pregnancies. If I see the guy out of the parachute accidentally lands in the neighbor's driveway, the neighbor yells, "Get off of my property!" And as the guy's like, "Yeah, sorry," and he's sprinting for the road, the neighbor jumps in their car and runs him over and hits him and drives him out into the road as they're 6 inches from the property line. I think there's a good chance that I would take care of some business with that neighbor. And maybe that's initiating by wrong because they were just evicting the person. But I would be wrong in that case because I kind of want my neighbors to know you don't get to kill people because they're not walking fast enough for you. And if others don't want to associate with me because of that.
I understand your motivation for saying you're not walking fast enough, but causing additional damage the longer they're there. There's another variable there that's ignoring.
Let's ignore that one though, because if that isn't what the argument's based on, right? Like if there was no further damage being caused.
Well, there is further damage being caused even by taking up space on the property. So even if they're not trampling on the flowers, they're using space against the consent of the property owner. Mm-hmm. They're using property.
Yeah, a dead run to try to do the right thing when they got there accidentally. Yeah, that doesn't pass my gut check. And boy, oh boy, do I ever not think that Shepard's 2022 gut check should have anything to do with world philosophy. It just has to do with how I live my life and who chooses to associate with me and be my pal and business partners and such. But no, you don't get to run over people who are doing their darndest to get off your property as quickly as they can. Ain't cool.
My gut's there with you. I just would like an argument for it. Falstar,
yeah, me too.
Thanks for the donation. He says, if I'm understanding you correctly, eviction is not abortion and the baby's life isn't terminated. Am I right about that? I mean, best case. Yeah. It depends obviously on the technology level at the time and the number of days the baby has had to develop. Those are the chances. So
yeah, and that's something I think that I was mentioning earlier, and it might have come from a talk I heard Walter give in 2016, I think, about the problem is with medical technology. That's who I should be upset with. Like right now, if a kid is 1.5 months old, medical technology can keep the kid alive if they're aborted at that point or trespassed or whatever. If it is 1 month into it, medical technology currently can't do anything about it. So my real problem, if I want to fix the problem, I should be making bigger donations to keeping kids alive when they're less than 8.5 months old or whatever the child's age is, that they can't survive another human being. So yeah. If that's really how much I care, well, how much have I donated in the last year? Nothing. So that shows you where my heart really is.
I don't know who Abboring is in the comments, so forgive me if I have talked to you and don't know it, but he keeps telling me his mind remains unchanged. That doesn't mean you're right. Sorry. I don't know. Maybe go watch the video again or come at me with an argument. Sorry about your mind. There's nothing I can do. Nothing I can do there. I've made the arguments. They're all out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something about the irreparable nature of human life versus physical property? That sounds like a spiritual take. I would need to see an argument for that. Body properties or properties. I don't mark a distinction in types of property. Your house should be just as inviolable as your body. Well, this has been a pleasant stream. Do you want to move on, or is there anything else we want to talk about with this?
I can't read it. Is anybody flaming or staying rational, or at least trying?
No,
okay,
good.
Good.
The audience,
civil discourse is cool.
Yeah, the Disenthrall audience is pretty baller. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. No kidding. No, I think this is. I am logically. I have challenged your position, and I have not defeated it. Just know if we're ever neighbors and somebody's trying to run off your property because they landed in a parachute, and you're running over with your car when they're 6 inches from the road, that ain't cool, man. We're having issues.
Well, what are you gonna do?
And I'll be wrong. Probably kill you.
Wow.
Because I don't want to live around people who would do that to another human being.
Wow.
I wouldn't trust you. Because if I trip and fall while I'm walking along the property line, for all I know, you're not going to shove me off your property. You're going to just shoot me in the head. I can't live in safety around those kinds.
And if I was your other neighbor and I saw you killing somebody for defending their property, I'd probably have to kill you.
Yep.
See where we are? See where Fields leads us every time? That's why I don't live by Fields.
More parking spaces at Walmart, though. We just solved that issue right there. Yeah, that's a challenge. But there are just certain things that I say in my life. You can do that around me, and you can't do that around me. And I think everything except this one, on logic and reason and good sound philosophy. But killing other people who are, murder is my.
I'm going to keep working on this too. So if either of us ever comes up with a solution, and if anybody watching ever comes up with a solution, definitely, you get front of the line to come on the show and prove me wrong on this one. I would love for that to happen. Yeah,
me too. I sure didn't. So the other thing that I wanted to chat about was the Anti-Subjectivism manifesto.
Yes.
And what is that for those who do not know?
A boring says that he gave me an argument. Hey, dude, if you want to come on the show and talk through it with me, you're welcome to. We'll have that conversation. Talk to Fallstar, the producer. Maybe send me a message with a snapshot of your argument just to make sure that it is something novel that hasn't been done repeatedly, and we can go from there. Because I'm always up for being wrong on this one, and you think I'm wrong in the other direction. So I think handling your objections will be easy compared to what Shepard's laying on me. So, all right. Sorry, you were saying Anti-Subjectivist manifesto. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to jump into it, but I thought if anyone is watching who doesn't know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. So anti-subjectivism, it's something that I've been thinking about and working on for years. And recently, with the help of Christian, we actually have begun writing articles on it, starting with the manifesto, which is a document that lays out a moral philosophy that does not include any subjective positions or attempts to eliminate all subjectivity from moral philosophy. And the manifesto is targeted really at philosophers that would understand such. And twice in the past 2 days, two separate people have come up to me and said, "Hey man, I read that, sounds great, but it's just over my head." And I was like, okay, well, it was definitely not meant for the layman, and it's definitely not reaching the layman. And so I think what I need to do next is rewrite a version of it for laymen, for people that aren't trained in the big words. I'm not trying to insult people. It's just philosophy is a study that requires a lot of learning to get, and we need to do a better job at not speaking that language when we're trying to convince people of moral philosophies. So I think that'll be my next project, and Shepard can be one of the goalposts that I have to pass to publish it. So if he doesn't think it speaks clear enough language, then we won't publish it until he agrees. How about that?
Well, and I think you'll need to update that from 2 people to 3 now, because I really think, as in our correspondence back and forth, think that I just don't understand it. And I think that I would be completely on board with it if it was called Our Subjective Way of Thinking How Things Ought to Be.
Our what? You broke up. Say that again?
Our Subjective Way of Thinking How Things Ought to Be.
It's literally called anti-subjectivism. Why would we say that?
That's my problem. That is exactly my problem with it, is the title. The title is not accurate as far as I can tell. Because as I go through it, I think it's subjective, but it falls exactly in line with what I think. Like I complete with it, except for calling it anti-subjective or saying that it's not there are so many, or there are a number of places in it that there's an assumption. And I'm trying to figure out how to best, maybe I'll just read a portion here and then see, when I wrote this a week ago, if I, as an old man, I'll use that as my excuse if I can still remember what my point was. Well, this is, I did it by line as I sent it to you, but if anybody's looking it up, if anybody looks onto one of the newer, better search engines for Anti-Subjectivism manifesto, I am going to, it says reality exists objectively. And I'm down to about if you're following along, second or third sentence there. And now let me go to the other screen.
I'm looking at one that doesn't have line numbers, so I'll just, that's fine.
Yeah. So I'll start right before what I take issue with. In support to the contrary of this position, however, none of these claims bridge the inability for see, I know how to say this right now. Section, it's in the
reality
section,
exists objectively. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is requirement number one for functional, ethical, or moral philosophies, let's say.
Yes. It just exist objectively, and this is second or third sentence in that. It is saying none of these claims bridge the inability for solipsistic, I'm not saying that correctly, or ideologically similar worldviews to facilitate any ethical theories. And then I would say an ethical theory that you might like, or I might like, as people who are rational, logical, science-based people. But if somebody is basing an theory off of taking the dice, you and I disagree that that's a good way to come up with ethical theories, but they just did. They just came up with a theory that way.
Yeah, so...
And you and I subjectively...
Well, to have any rational conversation, and this is not just a moral philosophy, and let me try and organize my response to this without being too rambly. To even have the conversation that we're having, we have to presuppose, this comes out of, well, Hoppianism, argumentation ethics talks a lot about this. Not that I hold argumentation ethics as valid as a moral philosophy, but it makes some good points. See, I'm doing the rambling thing. Okay, look, to have a conversation, to have a debate, or to have a moral philosophy or a logical framework or an argument of any kind, you have to build upon certain things. The rules of reason, A equals A, excluded middle, etc. There are problems that all moral philosophies skip over, hand wave away, or just outright ignore. The problem of hard solipsism, the problem of induction, the Agrippin trilemma, and this section here, this paragraph here, was to sort of meet those head on and point out that if you are a hard solipsist and you really only think that your mind is the only thing that exists, there is no argument that we can make that we could build anything rational on top of that. That is a foundation that leaves you literally thinking that your mind is the only thing that exists, and reality outside of it is an unprovable, unknowable gray area of nonsense that is just superstition. And that was the purpose of this section, was to say, look, we're building this upon the most rational only foundation that any moral philosophy has to build upon. Else you're
Subjectively.
What do you mean?
My disagreement with this came about through arguments with superstitious friends of mine who believe in I think only one God, but they are theists, and they're monotheists. And we, in arguing, came to the agreement that no, I cannot persuade them with my system, which is logic, reason, evidence, and they cannot convince me with their system, which is faith, because we each subjectively choose a different system of seeing, understanding the world around us. And their way of seeing it and understanding it is, I got the feels when I went up to the altar when I was a teenager and now to read this book. And that's my moral basis for believing my understanding of this book is. And I jump up and say, well, that completely sucks. There's no reason or logic. And they said, oh, you evidently subjectively value reason and logic. But good point. Like, to me, it's so important that I would think, well, how could anybody not want to use logic and reason and scientific evidence? But they choose not to. They choose to form their whole life opinion based on a feeling. Well, that feels wrong that he's going to run the guy over, so now I'm going to go out and initiate violence. They're choosing to live their life based on feels. And I don't think it's cool. I don't like it. I disagree. But it's a sort of choice of mine because I value certain things subjectively different than they do.
I think that's a pretty extreme take on logic, reason, and epistemology. So, like, we have to be able to, well, we don't have to. If we want to interface with the world effectively as a goal, we need to have a way to differentiate imagination from reality. And when we observe patterns, you know, like we can start with the cogito. I think, therefore I am, which comes before logic. It's just a recognition of existence and the qualia of thinking. And from there, we can start to acquire sense data. Now, the sense data that we're acquiring, as the solipsist will tell you, cannot necessarily be differentiated or identified from imagination and reality. And we can start watching the sense data over time, and we can start to notice patterns in the sense data. And we can give those patterns names. We can make up language. Again, we're still in sort of land of subjectiveness, right? We're just identifying patterns in our sense data and labeling it with words. And, you know, like that set of sense data is a car, and that set of sense data is a speaker. And that pattern I'm noticing in sense data, well, we're going to call that the law of identity. A equals A. Things don't, that we have ever observed, change from one thing into another spontaneously. You know, things like that. And so we're building logic we're building a language of logic. A lot of people invert this, right? So when you start talking about logic, people start to think of logic as this thing that exists sort of on its own, rather than a language like all other languages, like English and math and logic. These are all languages that are used to describe the qualia, the experience of reality. And we have not solved solipsism. Like, it's still entirely possible that you're a brain in a vat, Shepard, that you have written every song that you've ever heard, and I am just a vivid imagination in your head or being fed to you through, you know, wires in the matrix or whatever. There is no way that I've found to disprove that. There's some good indications. I mean, I'm kind of going a little bit wide with this, so tell me to shut up if I am, but like the best counters to solipsism that I've heard are things like, are just almost arguments from incredulity. That's why they're not valid. That's why they're not actually defeaters. But to really believe hard solipsism, to think that your mind is the only thing that exists, you would literally have to believe that, Patrick, I have written every song I have ever heard. I have made up every news report that I've ever heard. And even when, like, you can set up tests, right? Like, you can be like, I'm going to guess what happened on the other side of the world today, and you're over there watching whatever it is happening. And then, later we meet in the future and my guess turns out to be wrong. Well, actually, I had just subconsciously made up the other thing that happened, and you came and told me that I was wrong. Like, there's these logical tests that you can attempt to apply to work your way out of solipsism. I mean, and the best you can do is just be incredulous. Like, there's so many things. Like, I'm not smart enough to know everything, and to have made up every song in the world, and to have created every type of food, even the ones I don't even know exist currently. Like, all this is just me being incredulous, but it's the best that there is, really, against solipsism. And so the first paragraph of here was just to tackle what most philosophies don't, which is just to say, hey, this is a thing. We all might be brains in a vat, but if you are, we hope that you'll choose anti-subjectivism on how to interact with the imagined creatures around you. So, because, I mean, there's no answer to that. Now, you're saying, yeah, Patrick, that's subjective. That's subjectivity. And your number one started with subjectivity. And the only response, is, yeah, it's the exact same, no less and no more subjectivity than all of the sciences are built on. They all begin with that base assumption. So if anti-subjectivism is invalid because of that, then so too is all of science. And all logic, and all conversations, and all debates you've ever had. If we fail because of that, then so does everything. Literally everything else that is rational. That's the only response I can give.
Rational being a value that you and I both choose. I mean, that's my point, is that in these two languages, one being math, how many beers am I holding up? Use your system and tell me how many beers I'm holding up. Well, you count and you say 1. Well, I think there are 3 because Zeus told me so. Both using different systems, and yours using mathematical system or contemporary mathematical instead of superstitious mathematical. Yours, I have it in this case compared to what I was pretending to think that there were 3. But that is, as I am choosing a really crappy system, in my opinion, really crappy system, but instead I subjectively choose to pick being rational and logical and trying to be objective as much as possible. So I think, and read through the manifesto and even the preamble, I'm thinking, yeah, I agree with that, but that's not objective, that's subjective. And that was just one example of that. And I do think, as I said in the beginning, a lot of it is probably just because I don't understand the big words.
Maybe
and that's not your fault. That's my fault.
I don't know if subjective is the right word. Maybe arbitrary. You arbitrarily choose to recognize that reality exists outside of your brain. That's the fundamental assumption at the base of all sciences and reason. Now, if we compare that, well, first of all, the people that operate on feels and faith do that too. They just don't recognize it. Everybody acts and presumes that reality is real. They just don't talk about that. They talk about other things being necessary beings that create that for them. But if you compare the two theories, one makes testable predictions and the other one makes terrible predictions that work out better or worse than chance. And so if you're going to pick a system and you choose faith and feels, you're not going to be able to interface with the world very well, because
I agree.
We can develop data that doesn't depend on faith and feels to show which one makes novel testable predictions. You asked me,
I agree.
If you had asked me how many, drinks you're holding up, and you had asked two of us, me and somebody that, faith and feels guy next to me, and we can't see you. And I say, okay, well, based on my presumption that reality exists objectively, and that you have two hands, and that most people, usually only drink one beer at a time, like all of this inductive reasoning, I would have provided a guess. That would have been a novel, testable hypothesis. That, I put the hypothesis out there, and if my theory and my worldview successfully predicts the future, and somebody goes and checks, and sure enough, you're holding up one, that lends validity and credence to my set of premises and my model of the world, for example. You don't see any novel, testable predictions out of faith and feels. People, they don't even try.
Nope.
They just presume historical stuff. But you're not seeing novel, testable predictions out of that worldview. So it's almost like they're not really even in competition. They're just dissenting loudly. What do you do with that? I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. I think we even say it in here, right? At one point, we're like, look, where is it? I think we even said it in here that we're like, look, if let me find it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to make people sit here and wait while I read it, but I think we even say it in there. It's like, look, if reality doesn't exist for you, then this is going to be unhelpful for you. but so too will literally all science. So I mean, we just kind of bite that bullet with that explanation. Like, you have to reject literally all science and reason and debate and argument and propositional logic and everything. If you reject anti-subjectivism on those grounds, you're rejecting literally everything.
I agree with the philosophy, with I think everything, but I'll just hedge my bets. I'll say probably everything in the manifesto. And I've listened to it twice, read it twice, I think, over the last, since it came out. But I don't understand it all, because it's good stuff, and I'm a lay philosopher, not an academic one, and I don't think I completely understand everything. But of what I understand, there wasn't a time that I was like, no, I disagree with that. On just about everything that I can think of, I was like, yep, I subjectively agree with that. But I can't say that somebody who disagrees, they're subjectively disagreeing. I'm subjectively agreeing. So my one little contention is calling it what it is. I agree with what it is, but it ain't completely absent subjectivity.
I don't think we claim to be absent subjectivity. We claim to build a moral philosophy with the smallest amount of subjectivity possible. I think that was
right. So the title is the problem I have. Yeah. So it's just the title of it. I think the actual thing, I agree, because the title kind of does imply that. The first, anti-subjectivism. No, we subjectively choose being rational. We subjectively choose the scientific method. We say, hey, there are a lot of ways that we can try to figure stuff out, and the one that we have decided gives us the best answers is being rational, being logical, not being feelsies. And that's what we've chosen.
Yeah.
So that's my one little contention, is we are being subjective when we choose it. And now let's go for it. And I'm not saying you've agreed with that.
Well, no, I'm biting that bullet. I'm saying, okay, whoever out there wants to read this manifesto and claim that there's too much subjectivity in it, is rejecting literally all science and all reason and all moral philosophies, because they all do the same thing. All moral philosophies attempt to base themselves on reason. At least they claim to. Even the faith and feels people, when you start talking to their apologists, they all will stipulate the rules of reason and evidence up front in a debate. So, I mean, I guess I'm just biting that bullet. I don't think the title is bad because it acknowledges reality is real, or it stipulates that reality is real. Like, okay. I mean, yeah, maybe that's an arbitrary selection, but I mean,
I think what I should do then
I'm just biting that bullet. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'll die on that hill. That's fine.
If you know it's not accurate, if those words aren't accurate, though, I don't understand the bite term. Like, if there is something, like, I would say that when we had the abortion talk, I readily admitted that what I was doing was not, I couldn't argue for it in using logic and reason with my neighbors running over somebody. I openly admitted that. And I said, this is just, right now, this is what I'm thinking. That ain't cool. This is what I would do. And I wouldn't call that, though. I then now cannot claim that I'm 100% logical and reasonable. I violated that.
It's not called objectivism. It's called anti-subjectivism. So, like, against subjectivism. So we go out and we root out as much subjectivity in the moral philosophy, the moral framework as possible. Can we root out all subjectivity? No. We have the problem of solipsism. We have the Agrippan trilemma. We have to start where the most rational consensus is. Otherwise, we're brains in vats. Like, I don't know.
Here's what I got wrong. Oh, I know what's wrong. Here's what's wrong. You didn't call it absent subjectivism. You called it anti-subjectivism. So I was completely wrong. If you had called it the absent subjectivism manifesto, my arguments would be pretty good, but you didn't. You said, out and looking for, we're against subjectivism in most cases, and we're going to go out and look for it and defeat it. So I was completely wrong. You corrected me, right?
I mean, if we could find a way to justify any rational thought without the assumption that reality exists subjectively, we certainly would. Like, that would actually be like a Nobel Prize level discovery in philosophy. If we could, it would change everything. Yeah. No, but as we detail in here, subjectivity, every point of subjectivity that you find in any system, moral or otherwise, pollutes the system, makes it less accurate, less useful, and in the case of moral philosophies, usually has a body count behind it, and that's why we named it anti-subjectivism. We're out there to make the least arbitrary, least subjective moral philosophy possible.
Yep, and my arguments are not good, but because of the name of it, I didn't get my anti and if it was asubjectivism or absent subjectivism, then I would have some stand on, but I have no ground to stand on. You 3 minutes ago, what you said made me see I'm completely wrong.
Well, I don't want to define myself into being right either, because that's a thing that a lot of people do a lot of times. But I mean, that's why the name that's why the name stuck. It's not like I would love to have been able to create the philosophy named objectivism and do it better than Ayn Rand did, honestly. But I can't. That doesn't exist. I've spent the last several years going up against people that think it exists. Rothbard, Mark Passio, natural law adherents, Randian objectivists. These all fail the test. Usually on Hume's guillotine. So yeah, I didn't make objectivism 2.0. We made anti-subjectivism. Unfortunately. Oops. I think I just messed up your document. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about in here?
I think anti versus absent. You're right. I'm wrong. Yep. I used the wrong. Is that an antonym, or am I using that incorrectly? or the prefix or whatever? I used the wrong one in my thinking.
Look, Shepard, I've been right too many times. So something, I have to be wrong on something. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No. 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 I agreed with all the content that I can think of. Yeah, as long as you weren't claiming this whole thing is not subjective, which you're not. You're not. You're just saying, hey, that's something we think is nasty, and we go out and defeat it when we can. That makes good sense.
Well, I mean, well, okay. I should shut up and accept victory, I suppose. But I mean, I see I can see the point even with anti-subjectivism. It would be like, you know, me saying that I'm anti-abortion and then making room for rape evictions. Like there's a little nugget of, you know, something that seems out of alignment with calling myself anti-abortion. So I mean, I can see it. But if you have a better name, let me know. A better name than anti-subjectivism. Let me know.
I think the Christian philosophy, or I think Kaysen was involved, whoever was involved, whomever, in getting it going. Gosh, I would rather see the first or last initials of your first or last names, or border collie, or any name other than that. But that's just my aesthetic.
Any name other than what? Oh, you broke up. Are you there? Oh, I think we lost you. Come back. Hey, you're back. You were saying you would any name other than what? Anti-subjectivism? You don't like that?
Yeah, exactly. Call it anything else. But no, you can call it whatever you want. Y'all came up with it, and you guys are way more academic and deeper and smarter about it than I am. So you get to call it whatever you want. It's an
I've always been bad at marketing. Marketing. I've always been bad at marketing. What should we call it?
Oh, but that's not the goal here. Marketing isn't the goal. This is an academic piece, and you're trying to find college professors or serious philosophers who have put the work in and know the big words and can actually pronounce selectivism, the thing where people don't believe that anything exists, including. You're looking for people who can pronounce that word and understand, and that's the goal of this, is not to get a bunch of people to agree with it, because not scale, but that's not what the goal is. This is not a marketing thing. This is an academic piece. And I got into trying to read one, and when I got in way over my head trying to understand it.
No, it's fun to talk about. Well, it's fun for me. I don't know. We probably have like one viewer right now, but it was fun for me.
I love it. Well, and I always learn something, so that's good.
Yeah. I'm still learning constantly every day. I want to rewrite it for the normies, so to speak, and I don't mean that insultingly. I just mean such that more people can understand it. But I fear it's going to be super simple. Like it's just going to be like, look, there's two ways to live. You can live like the animals, or you can choose to make agreements with people to live peacefully and to exchange value for value and to respect other people's bodies and properties. It's literally the only two options. Which one would you like? And that's it. That's the whole paper in a nutshell. There's really only the two ways. And the humans that rob, cheat, steal, they're living like animals and deserve no better treatment than animals.
It's all just a matter of degree. Mm-hmm. And with them, are you saying are you saying that it is more, with those folks, it's more of a matter of degree? If I say that you, my neighbor, tell somebody to get off their property, as the person is running to get off the property, you come flying up behind them, run over them to knock them out into the road with your car. That is not initiating violence. That is simply evicting someone from your property. Then I get my feels all up in a bunch or whatever, and I come over and kill you. I have initiated violence. And you might say, okay, if ever a violence was going to be initiated, that makes a lot more sense than trying to get oil for $1 a barrel less. So that's better. But you're on the opposite side of the chasm. You are agreeing that it's okay to initiate violence sometimes, and that's the wrong side to be on, which I have to agree. So from that perspective, I completely agree with you that there are only two ways to be. There's the one huge scale, and then there's the other pure, clean, lily white. We don't initiate no violence against nobody. And period. Period.
I think it embraces what most, especially natural law frameworks, hate, which is you can associate and reciprocate rights with the people that you choose, and you can disassociate from people that you choose. And so if people are doing non-aggressive behaviors that you don't like, you can disassociate from them completely. And if you choose to try and control your neighbors the ways your neighbors defend their property, then other people will see your behavior and they will have to decide for themselves if they continue to reciprocate rights with you after you've done that.
Mm-hmm. And that would be a discussion I would love to have with you sometime, is more of my less academic, more country philosophy kind of thing. If I had strict 100% adherence to what I believe to be morally proper, like don't accept stolen money. And if you do, you're kind of guilty of initiating violence. Well, I saw somebody the other day who's a friend of mine who was driving on a road that was built using stolen money. And so should I now disassociate? And I am willing to have this grace and say we lived in this convoluted, messed up system. I would appreciate it if you understand that it's a stolen money that built that road. But even if you don't, if you're growing your carrots and I'm growing my apples, and we get together and we trade them and we smile and we laugh and we're good neighbors, I'm not going to disassociate you just because you believe in something I don't like. Like if you're a voter or something, like whether or not you think that's initiating violence, if it's the next step of your job as a cop or something. No, maybe that's too far, but you're getting a job as a government employee. Well, I think that's completely wrong. But if you're my next door neighbor, you're imperfect, and I'm going to be your friend, and I'm going to talk to you and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And we'll each fellowship with each other and share ideas. And maybe in a year or 20, I or you will say, I've been thinking about what you said, and I'm glad you didn't disown me 20 years ago and you kept chipping away at me over beers, because now I kind of see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, we can talk. Let's talk about it if you want. If you need to go, we can end the show. I'm having a good time.
No, I am too, and I think your viewer is. My boring last conversation. You might have been right that there's one viewer. So I don't care. Everyone out there, exactly.
I'm here for me.
Yeah, we're having a conversation. Who are you people anyway?
Y'all can watch if you want. No, literally, that's how I run the channel on purpose. Like
where do you draw that line?
I mean, I think again the beauty of anti-subjectivism is first in realizing that rights don't exist in a way that is outside the mind. It's not mind independent. It's not objective moral law that functions at all times and all places like gravity. And so recognizing that allows you to protect yourself. And I've said this a million times, so I won't go into the full diatribe. But if you know that you're not protected by some existential thing called natural law or natural rights or rights at all, or the Constitution, God forbid, which is like 2 levels additionally removed, two layers of superstition on top of it, then you'll know how vulnerable you are. And the first step to really protecting yourself is to know what your vulnerabilities are. So you're going to be more protected if you know the reality of the situation. And you can also, there's nothing prescriptive in anti-subjectivism that says, if you find a state of nature being, that you must attack them.
Right.
You can be chill about the little things, or you can be understanding or even altruistic about the people like you're talking about that don't know or don't understand. Like my neighbors are full on raging Bernie bros. And they are, actively participating and trying to get people into power that will control me violently. Do I have any onus to respect their rights and treat them any better than a rabid dog? No, I don't. Have I attacked my neighbors? No, I haven't, for many reasons. One, I could list the reasons, but a lot of them are obvious. Like, I'll have a better chance at convincing not only them, but the rest of the world if I'm not around attacking people. Like, if I'm a more reasonable, peaceful person. This is the same argument that we get into when we talk about, do you have the right to defend yourself against cops when they pull you over? Do you have the right? Absolutely. Yeah. What they're doing is violent aggression. Should you? Well, I can't tell you no, but you probably shouldn't, because, every time somebody does anything wrong, the entire world's media dives into your entire life, and they pull out every page in your book and every political label you've ever used, and then they smear it all with whatever you did, and they spin it to make you look terrible, and they spin it to make every political label you've ever used look terrible. So if you're doing it as any kind of activism at all, you're probably being counterproductive. This goes back to not Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, where, he changes hearts and minds by just letting people witness the suffering rather than fighting back violently. And it was a very successful strategy.
So from a tactical standpoint, I think that's much smarter. Like, you had a few weeks or a month or two ago, you had a smart guy and a nice guy to talk about natural law, and nice guy invited smart guy to be on. So, and in listening to that, nice guy there was something he wasn't understanding, was the difference between tactics and pure, cold, hard, anti-subjectivism, academic philosophy. And I think they are two different things. Do you have a right to do something, or is it cool if you do something? And if you really want to win, is that, according to your definition of win, what your subjective values are? If you want to win, is that the good thing to do right then? And I think often it wouldn't be. But with your neighbors, who are state of nature beings,
commies, same thing. Yeah.
Commies, you still have barbecues, right?
No.
Like,
no.
No?
No. Oh, no. So now I see where you're going with this. No, I'm not friends with them. No. I'm not really friends with many people that actively try and have me controlled. I'm just not. And that's not like some
tactical thing, or it's a moral thing, isn't it?
No. Well, maybe neither. I think it's because I hit a place in my life like 10 years ago where I just decided to eliminate all relationships that weren't founded on truth. And I didn't do that out of some like cult like thing. It was just like, if I can't be fully honest with somebody, or if I have to act under pretense, or anything like that, like if it just can't be a totally open back and forth relationship, then I'm not interested. I would rather be alone than to subject myself to shitty relationships, fake relationships, coercive relationships, manipulative relationships. I just don't do drama relationships. I don't do any of that. I just don't. I don't. And I have a lot less relationships in my life because of it. Fact. But I also have an incredibly chill life. I have so little drama in my life because of those changes I made 10 years ago. I mean, I would never go back. So like, if they came over and they're like, oh, we need a cup of milk. Yeah, we'd probably give them one. But I don't invite them over for cookouts and shit. Like, because the first thing it would come up would be a fight. Like, they would come over and they'd stir up drama about some Bernie Biden shit, and I would lay it out for them, and then it'd be awkward, and then my neighbors would probably dislike me. So my neighbors being neutral to me, I think maybe is a better situation because, does that make sense? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it like that. I haven't like tactically planned out my neighbor relationships. Maybe I should.
Well, no, I don't think you should. I don't think it's a duty you have. It's not a duty for a voluntarist to spread the word. I think from a tactical standpoint, aren't many of us. And if the coolest person you meet, like I kind of have this thing that as I'm driving along the highway, if there's a car broken down off to the side, I pull over. That's just do. I pull over to help them. And somehow it seems that accidentally in each conversation, something comes out that I'm a voluntarist or an anarchist or that I hate the government. And it just so happens that the guy that helps people out doesn't like the government. So I'm doing it tactically as an evangelist for voluntarism. I'm doing that, but nobody has a duty to go out and proactively look for opportunity. Ooh, the cops are having a picnic. I want to go hang out with them and see if I can pull seeds. No, you don't have a duty to go hang around with people who don't agree with you or who you don't like or don't like their morals, their values. It's certainly not an obligation. I choose to sometimes, but then the other 360 days, I just like to be all alone, just me and my wife on the ranch.
I mean, like our neighbors on the other side, I don't even know what their politics are. But you know what? When my daughter was in the hospital for a month straight with cancer, they mowed our lawn and brought us food. And so, we've built a reciprocal, helpful relationship with them around that. Politics have never come up. I don't go around politicizing, like overtly politicizing relationships. But also, I mean, like if I don't like somebody or if somebody's doing something bad to me, then I don't know. Maybe I'm antisocial or something, but I'm totally at peace with cutting relationships off. Like I'm just fine. I'm fine ending bad relationships. And man, because I've never been more peaceful for it. Like
amen.
It's really a life improvement.
Yep. And I certainly don't have as many relationships as I used to. I used to be a Rotarian. And in the first part of every Rotary meeting, they pray to a god and they stand up and they salute flags and pledge allegiances to governments. And so after a while, I just couldn't do that anymore. So I quit. And that got rid of a whole group of friends. They weren't friends, but casual acquaintances. And so as I've become more and more years, I don't have as many friendships, casual or deep, as I used to. I've cut off some very good friends just because, you're into football and God and government. And I'm not interested in any of those three things. And what are we going to talk about? So let's just go our separate ways. However, I think one of the reasons I wanted to chat about this is that I've heard you say things in the past and then have a facial expression of, well, you associate with them still? And like somebody who does something wrong, somebody who is actively petitioning for property taxes to be increased. Like you would still go to their barbecue? Oh, absolutely. It's going to be miserable, but that's where I can go and show them the human and how the human is being affected by it, which maybe someday will change their mind. So I guess what I'm saying is I want your permission to go hang out with the bad guys. Well, not your physical permission, but I want a clarification on, do you think it is wrong to do that? Or it's just, you don't need that crap in your life?
Oh, it's not wrong. You can be as pathologically altruistic as you want.
I'll do.
I mean, you can even be a vegan if you want. No, like
you're right.
And especially like as a form of activism, going to those barbecues and making good impressions and having good conversations is a great way to improve the world. I'm not saying not do that. I will probably not be friends with the people that hold those beliefs because I have just a really viscerally clear-cut idea of what I want to call a friend. And I'm really okay with not having bad friends. But I'll talk to anybody. I'm talking to strangers in my chat that disagree with me on abortion and inviting them on for a chat. Like I'll I'll talk. I'll go places and have conversations. I guess I'm really weird about relationships compared to most people, in that I'm just very careful about what I invest my emotional energy into.
Yeah, and for me, it's more time. Like, my time is so valuable to go hang out with somebody who doesn't have anything interesting to say. If we completely disagree, or I find it interesting that they're into geology, and that's what they like to ramble about a long time. Well, okay, that's entertaining. I might do that. But yeah, the older I get, the more it's an effort to go to events that isn't the topic of conversation isn't going to be the one I would choose, which is, hey, anybody here think that taxation is cool, that it isn't theft? Like, that's the conversation I want to have, which isn't the best way to go to neighborhood barbecues.
No, it's not. They want to talk about like the football games and shit. I cannot stand small talk, and I'm not a fan of sports, so that kind of takes me out of most of that stuff. So, and I'm okay with that. Again, like, you gotta these past 5 years, the reading the Stoics, just, it's so good. It's, you come to peace with yourself, you come to peace with reality, you come to peace with what you like and don't like, and what you'll put up with and won't, and the repercussions of all of those preferences, and then you just be happy and you be peaceful, and you expect what you're gonna get, and you get what you expect, and man, I don't know, life's good, man. I wish
Stoicism rocks.
Like, the people around the world that I'm closest, a lot of the people around the world that I'm closest with are far away from me, and thanks to the internet, like you, for example, man, I wish we lived near each other.
Yep.
But, you know, like, yeah, a lot of the people I'm friends with are so busy that even if they lived next door to me, I probably wouldn't see them more than once a month. But that's good, though.
Being productive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, depending on our values, and I have to think about that, because I think of a 40-hour-a-week job as a part-time job, because my values as an entrepreneur, as a producer, are hard work. In other words, 60 to 90 hours a week, unless you're really serious about getting your own business going, and then you have to work a lot more. But at least 60 to 90, because that's what it takes to get stuff done. And then I look at people who, no, I want to live within 15 minutes of where I work, and I don't want to have to drive further than that, and I want to have my weekends off. And, well, you know what? I'm mocking them right now, but different values than I do, and they probably have lower blood pressure, and it's probably more relaxing to talk about football than it is about abortion or that kind of thing. Like, it's certainly way more relaxing.
Lower risk too. They have a lower, like, financial risk usually when you're at those kind of jobs. Yeah, entrepreneurs. Like, you know, it's a real stressor. You know, every few years when it's time to move on to the next venture, there's really big question marks in the ledger, in the bank accounts. You know, when you start thinking about that stuff, and that is not for everybody, and that's fine. Like, no. we actually, if everybody was like that, it probably wouldn't work, because you need people that are chill with being employees. Everybody can't be like a entrepreneur type. Like, that wouldn't work.
Nope. And as I get older, I might just content myself to make a video a week and read a book a month and just relax, plow the driveway, play with the dog, play with the kitties, say hi to the neighbors when they come by, and just relax. There could be something to it.
Yeah. And not for me yet, though. Like, I don't feel that yet, but I can imagine. You're
not ready for the rocking chair?
I can imagine a rocking chair, but I'm not there. Yeah. The world's too broken for me to sit in a rocking chair still.
You know, speaking of hopefulness like that, I think that we're screwed. As a world, I think that we are. So I have been producing content, 420 something videos over the last 3 or 4 years. And you have been content for 10 or 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And Larkin Rose has been producing content for 30 years or whatever, at least 20 or 25 of them good voluntarist content. And then people who I'm not mentioning, and I'm not putting myself into the category with you, but of us, and then let's say another 10 people who really put their heart and soul and thousands of dollars and many thousands of hours into it. The result isn't really like right now. If you said, hey, I need ideas. Will everybody please give me 5 ideas that I need to include in the next book I write? You might get 2 or 3 people that would give you 2 ideas. And it gets depressing when you think about that. Being a Stoic, I'm not doing videos to end up having. It's not within my power to have 2 billion voluntarists in the world. It is within my power to make a video and put it out there and put some effort into marketing. So it's not the ends, it's the means. If I take care of the means, the ends will take care of themselves. But I guess I'm sitting back right now and saying the means look like they're going to end up like crap.
What's his name? Jeremy, the CEO of Library, makes the case that freedom-loving libertarian types are the most marginalized, oppressed class in the world. And he recently posted some graphs that compared the nature versus nurture, genetics versus environment of able to predict homosexuality, which is somewhere around 30% genetic, give or take, because it's all very hard to figure out, right? So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it's around 30% genetic and 70% environment, your sexual orientation. And then he compared it to a different set of graphs that showed your predilection to hold liberty or libertarian or anarchistic ideals was around 60% genetic. So it's like, okay, it's
interesting.
It's more of an oppression. Like, we were just born this way. Can you just leave us alone? We want to be left alone. It's not our fault. We were born this way. Fuck off. Who knows how accurate that is, but still, like, maybe it will forever be a minority in the gene population of people that really just want to be left alone. And again,
by the way,
stoically accepting that allows you to live a lot more peaceful, less stressful life. Like, it may be that way for all time, but that doesn't mean I'm still not going to demand equal representation.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what can we do to support Jeremy? Last week was a bad week for him. Wasn't it last week that he had the ruling against Library or whatever?
It was a couple weeks back, but yeah, I messaged him. I don't know that there's anything that can be done. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I invited him on to talk about it, but like, that's just going to be what's he going to do? Like, do a press?
Yeah.
Several laps through the press to celebrate his defeat. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to talk about it either. I don't blame him.
Yeah. God, I wish there was something though, because like what he has done with Odysee, and Library behind it, but I don't understand the technology so much. But what he has done, like, that's what people should be out there doing. Like, it's not just 100 or 5,000 people on Odysee. Like, there's very little voluntarist content. Like, it's geeks like us to sit around and talk. It is a big popular thing, and that's not easy. Competing with the big dogs.
Yep.
Like, he's made that work. I don't know how many followers or whatever are using the platform, but he has made it a success, and that's pretty dang cool.
It was really smart of them to separate library from Odysee and like have one company dealing with the blockchain that the SEC can attempt to destroy, while another company makes a serviceable, popularizable front end for it. That was really smart of them.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy is a smart MFer. He's doing good stuff. Yeah, so it's just a blockchain. Library's a blockchain. When you upload a video, the details of the video are put on the blockchain. And Odysee is like a front end that just shows the blockchain in a way that people don't notice there's a blockchain. And I think it's a role model for all cryptocurrency or crypto-based, blockchain-based technology. Like, you can have the nerd stuff, you can have the advantages of the blockchain, but you also need to make it normie friendly. Like, my mother doesn't need to understand blockchain tech to use your website.
Mm.
And if she does, you have a failure on your hands. So,
right.
Yeah, they've done a great job. And yeah, they're really big.
Yeah. Very happy for them.
Yes. Hey, we publish all of our stuff there. We're streaming there now. Oh, crap. I forgot to check the comments over there. I'm bad.
Yeah, that's something that I'm going to ask you. I guess I should ask offline, but the user friendliness. I know that there's a way to, like when I first got the channel, I tried to upload everything from YouTube or just sync it. And maybe 100 of the 300 at the time made it over. And then now it's frustrating to save every video in low quality, and for Odysee, high quality for YouTube. Upload it to YouTube, it works flawlessly. Upload it to Odysee, didn't redo. It just, I wish that sync thing could be for everyone. That would be a nice feature. You have it set up so it does that, right?
Nope, I turned the sync off because sometimes I upload different videos. So like, especially if we're talking about like something that YouTube will censor for, which is like a lot of things nowadays, then I'll start the stream on YouTube, cut it off, and then continue the stream on Odysee.
Yeah.
And so I don't want those short YouTube things to get synced over, so I turned off sync.
Makes sense.
And
yeah.
I upload manually or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Let's see. So I did miss a couple. I don't want to totally bring up abortion again, and I think I know your answer to this, but he did comment. So Michael says, if someone breaks into your home and leaves a puppy in your home, you're not legally bound to take care of the animal. However, that doesn't mean you get to kill the puppy, even though technically you would be within your rights to do so. Are you ethically bound to take care of the puppy, even though you didn't ask for it? Are you ethically and morally responsible for that innocent life that didn't intend to be there and isn't there by its own choice? Or do you take care of it until you find a responsible party to take care of it? So I think we already went through all of that, but you're welcome.
What is the
Shepard,
difference? They mentioned, well, he mentioned in ethics. What's the difference? And I mean, to talk to me like I'm the kind of person who would drive alone in a car with a mask. Just baseline. What's the difference between moral and ethical?
So a lot of philosophers have used these words in different ways, some totally different ways and some interchangeably. So there is not one right answer, like with many words that have different definitions. So there is no one answer to you. I can tell you how I prefer to think of them and how I've heard intelligent people think of them. My preference is to talk about ethics as sort of the study of moral philosophy, or the science of morality, like it's the study of, and then morality is sort of like the resulting answers that you get out of ethical study. But that's just how I use them. Certainly other people would disagree or use them differently.
Well, so like, and you know, I think that the puppy,
like ethics is doing the work to create the equations that you plug behaviors into to get answers as to whether they're good or evil. And the answers are the moral answers, so to speak. That's how I think about it.
Okay. And I think Michael, was it you said asked that about the puppy dog example, or whomever it was that asked that. I think that your argument was the one that I had, except I had it for people and you had it for puppy dogs. And I think that Patrick soundly defeated humans. So Certainly the puppy dog has also been defeated. And I think it then comes down to the aesthetics, as I've heard explained. I think that's a term you use, Patrick. And maybe I should use the word cool. Is it cool to do something versus is it going to send you to philosopher's hell if you do that thing? So if you initiate violence against somebody, you're going to hell. If you flip somebody off, then you're not going to hell, but that's not a real cool thing to do. And cool falls within the aesthetics category. And this is with the puppy dog or the human being, it's still a completely thing. I see a lot of difference between tossing a puppy dog off your property and blowing it out of a cannon to get it off. I guess that's all within aesthetics. If it's on your property, kill that shit.
Going back to the library, somebody's talking about Eric Voorhees putting making shapeshift into a DeFi as heroic. I agree, and in the same way, Jeremy and the library team, I think, and I told them this to their faces on Anarchast when I was interviewing them once, that I mean, that's heroic stuff on the level with like Ross Ulbricht creating Silk Road, which for a while forced drug cartels to compete in the free market, to put down their guns and to compete in the free market. He did that with a website. That's heroic stuff. That is like epic heroic stuff. When you get government out of the way, you can just, with nothing more than technology, eliminate violence by forcing them to compete on a website for business. That's fantastic. That's epic. That's something to aspire to. And I think Jeremy with library is on the same trail. And guess what? The government went after both of these people. So who's on the side of freedom? That makes it pretty clear right there, doesn't it?
Yep. And I don't really blame those who don't have the guts to be at whatever level of purity we think they should be. If I started up a video platform or a social media platform and it started getting big enough that one day there was a knock on the door and the big time threats came out, and like serious stuff like this is what we will do to your family and blah, blah, blah. Am I going to stand up and say, no, you do all that stuff to my kids and grandkids and wife and all that, and may not have a backdoor into our system, or you may not get the emails or the personal information of the people on our platform? I don't know if I would have the guts to have them kill my family if I knew I could avoid that by simply shutting down. So if I don't know that I would have those kind of guts, huge props to the people who do have those guts, and to those who don't and who fold. I can't say I'm any better than you. Well, I could now because I'm 2 beers into the evening and I could talk tough. Or they come try to take them from me. They're not taking my guns. Yeah, whatever, man. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're heroes. Like, if everybody would do it, it wouldn't be very heroic. It would just be expected normal behavior. For sure. I don't know. Mona said 10 years in prison. Ross got 2 life sentences for making a website. A little bit more than 10 years, unfortunately. Oh, I remember one of the announcements I wanted to make. Now it was sad. But probably good that I didn't open the show with it. Stuart Rhodes, who I have interviewed on this channel twice. Once many years ago, before he was one of the central figures in seditious acts, quote unquote. He was just a normal guy running what I saw to be a really worthy organization, the Oath Keepers, which were trying to get the police to stop being mere order followers and to try and make them think for themselves a little bit, and to, think of the oaths that they took to uphold the Constitution and people's rights as overriding any orders that they were given to, hurt people and take their stuff. What an awesome goal. You can go, if you go back way far, and I actually thought about taking the interview down because I remember in that interview that I joked, and this was years ago, like way before Trump, way before any of this. I joked with him because he was on the Southern Poverty Law Center's webpage as like a racist Nazi terrorist or whatever. And so I was joking with him, telling him he was my favorite terrorist. And I thought about taking that video down because it didn't work out too well. And I think in that interview I was joking. I was like asking him for tips on how to get on the Southern Poverty Law's website.
Like if you're not on there, you don't have real street creds.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of libertarian are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So recently happened? He was sentenced, right?
Yeah, sorry. So then we interviewed him from federal prison on this channel 6 months, 3 months, 6 months ago, something like that. And then he was just convicted. He lost the case, 20 years in prison. So he will be in federal prison for 20 years, effectively the rest of his life. I reached out again and said, hey, if you want to come on and talk about anything, you're welcome to. But again, I think it's just like the Jeremy thing. It's like, hey, you want to come on and talk about how everything just worked out terribly? Like, I understand who doesn't want to talk about it. But I also like, I think about this a lot with Ross. Like, if I went to prison, I would really, one of the primary tortures of prison is just having the world forget about you and move on, right? And so if I was in prison, like, I would really want to try and maintain some kind of connection with the outside world and with people that cared about me. And so I've thought about this with Ross. Like, I've thought about inviting people to like send me letters, and then we would do like a letter bomb for Ross in prison. Shouldn't use that language, actually. We would mail a bunch of letters. Let me be clear. And so, like, same thing for Stuart. Like, now I effectively know 2 people that are in prison for the rest of their life. The number's growing, and none of these people are bad people, and the state is just continuing to just erode people's freedom and destroy lives of people I know. Yeah. So what do we do?
Something interesting about the prison thing. A good friend of mine, probably one of the guys who was most instrumental in getting me into philosophy, who first told me, no, Milton Friedman isn't the guy. He was wrong. Here's the guy you want to look into, and check out Mises.org. He was the guy that kind of got me going from small government libertarian to consistent libertarian. And some years after that, he ended up in prison for 3 years for drug stuff, and completely unapologetic, and could have had a way lighter sentence. But nope, you darn right I'm selling this stuff. I'm helping a lot of people with it, and I have the right to. No, screw you, judge, just completely in their face. So when he first went in, I would send him letters, and he had a positive attitude. He said, yeah, please, here's a list of some of the people who I'm interested in. If you have to make it look like a letter, but send it in and it'll give me something to read and think about. And as time went on, he quit being in touch. And then when he got out, we spoke again, and he said, nobody in prison is smart or a thinker. Like, these people are in prison for drug stuff, and they're watching cops in the day room, and they're cheering for the cops. This is how deeply they think. Like, yeah, get him. And, yeah, I knew he was going to get busted. And he said, this is the level of thinking. And he said, to survive in there, and he wasn't talking about, getting stabbed or sodomized, but in order to make it, there are certain other priorities other than philosophy that you've got to be thinking about. You got to think about your set. You got to think about who the shot caller is in your car and in the other cars. And you've got to learn this whole prison system and higher level thinking. He said, unfortunately, he had to let that go. And went out, and we were talking about this. He said that his philosophy remains the same, but other things have kind of stepped ahead, like, is it Jack Donovan, I think, who wrote the book, basically saying that it's more important to be a man than a good man. And being a man, from more of a biological sense, this is what men do. Men band together and they keep the women safe and they conquer new territory and blah, blah, blah. So I read the book that he recommended and can't say that I agree with being Mr. Tough Guy like that completely. But a lot of it was also good. And it just gave me a different perspective of what people who are on the inside might be going through. And if I'm there and I'm not sending letters back, that could be why. I think there's some things that I can't understand on the outside that could be happening on the inside.
Interesting.
The Way of Men is the book, I think. Way of Men or Way of the Man, something like that.
Alternate title, Half Retarded. Like there's certain, there's some really good stuff in that kind of be a man thing. Inspirational, take responsibility, fight the battles that need to be fought, protect the ones that you love. But there's also like a lot of just dumb male behavior, like punch guys because they called your wife ugly. Like that's just so silly. Like it almost seems like unmanly to allow your emotions to be controlled to that degree by other people. I don't know.
Morally and ethically, I agree.
There was a ... on the end of that, Shepard. What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Give me the other side of that sentence.
The imperfect world that we live in, there's a lot of reality out there that I don't like and don't think it should be. And I can choose to rise above that. I would say not and. And if I choose not to live in the state of nature world, there's a real good chance I'm going to get my butt kicked by the dude who is state of nature. And if my higher value, like as is happening right now, every year I have I have many tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen by a gang of state of nature folks. And if I manned up, maybe they wouldn't, but I don't choose to do that. I choose to be peaceful and passive and allow myself to be stolen from. A state of nature dude who says, no, this is how I live. And this is my woman. You don't look at her that way. I don't know evolutionarily. Like, I know who I want my friends to be. I know who I agree with, but I think we might end up all getting our butts kicked by the tough guys.
I've never argued for not defending yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the, like a guy insulting your wife is doing nothing. Like,
or if he compliments her, to me, like, man, she's hot. And you're like, I'm going to kick your butt. What?
To me, it's like more manly, more respectable to actually control your reactions to such things. Well, anyway, yeah. Shepard, it's been great talking to you. Is there anything else you want to say?
Same back at you. No. By the way, yeah. If I ever go to prison for thought crimes, I think that's what it would be, because I'm a completely peaceful guy, but it would be thought crimes. So if I go to prison over thought crimes, don't do fundraisers and cause a bunch of ruckus. Like, if I go, there's a reason. They're trying to prove a point. Their judges aren't going to care if another $25,000 is raised on GoFundMe, and they can do an appeal for this or that. Frickin' write me off. I mean, maybe if you send a little bit to commissary, like, that'd be cool. But that's just my personal thing. Is I took the risk of going on to the Tube of Views and to Odysee and saying some stuff, and if it comes back and it bites me, and those were the wrong thoughts in my bed, I kicked that hornet's nest. I don't expect you to donate your hard-earned dollars to try to get me a lighter sentence. So yeah, those are my final cheerful words after speaking about other cheerful things like abortion and murder. What an uplifting show we've had tonight.
If I go to jail, break me out. I'm half kidding. Wow. Yeah. Things we can't say on YouTube. Okay, Shepard, I've really enjoyed talking to you as always. Everybody that hung out in the comments, thank you. Everybody that disagreed, thank you too. Everybody that agreed, okay, that's good. All right, guys. We will catch you next time. Take it easy.